I don't really do videos like this, but I felt like it was semi-necessary for misinformed people or anyone like that. I'm going to be debunking the top 10 strongest Super Smash Bros. Characters canonically by Dobbs. The first thing I want to do is give huge credit on the editing. It was cool. Another thing is, I know that it's your opinion on this, but to state that's how that is kind of just doesn't work that way. Now, obviously, there's going to be people in your comments to tell you what's up, or there's people like me doing what they're doing now. It's just one of those things that's bound to happen, but let's get into this.
Why? When you look at Mewtwo's stats when comparing it to every other Pokemon, it is literally tied for second with 8 other Mons. But these are not just any Pokemon, these are Pokemon gods. And yeah, they basically created the universe.
At number 10, you have Mewtwo. I like that Pokemon. You have the first reason being around his stats are near or above those that are extremely strong in Pokemon. Mewtwo being alongside Pokemon in terms of stats or strength does not connect over to the powers of said Pokemon. Scaling in Pokemon is already pretty odd because taking in dex entries, feats of the respective Pokemon, stats, and levels, they all get difficult to manage after a while, but if you figure it out, it's pretty easy. I've had 2 videos going over this, and what I've come to the easy way of going about it, you get the stats for the Pokemon, meaning the actual stats and not just base stats, scale the others, see where the feats lay, and you also have to make sure that you include levels because it's a huge thing in the games. And the problem is that would work on attack potency and sometimes durability, but not on the abilities of the Pokemon themselves. Mewtwo being comparable to Dialga, Palkia, or whoever because of stats wouldn't matter because a lot of what they do attributes to their power. Mewtwo doesn't get time moves because he's not the god of time. He doesn't get space moves because he's not the god of space. So comparing him in a power aspect wouldn't matter at all because a lot of Mewtwo's moves are psychic based and a lot lower than what those Pokemon actually are. Because look at here, say that's how that actually works, how you said it works, and stats equal power. In attack, there's Pokemon like Hitmonlee and Granbull with the same attack as Palkia and Dialga. Does that mean that those Pokemon are universal destroyers that control time and space? And trust me, there's a lot more Pokemon than just Hitmonlee and Granbull. Those are just really obscure ones that I like to mention. I'm sure that you're connecting the dots here, but you pretty much get how that's not how it works.
So Mewtwo, a genetically enhanced Pokemon that was created to be the ultimate weapon, has the ability to hold itself in a battle against a divine entity.
Since we've already seen the power of higher tiered beings in Pokemon, what you said would work here, and I trust Mewtwo's strength and durability to hold his own here because obviously it's how Pokemon battles would work. He definitely has the attack potency, but you know, he's not sending anyone back in time or he's not ripping someone right through space or something like that. It's not about to happen.
When Mewtwo Mega evolves, it is tied for the strongest Pokemon in the universe with Mega Rayquaza, who in fact had the power to stop Primal Groudon and Kyogre in an epic battle that almost destroyed the Earth.
Well, in terms of special attack, yes, they compare, but if that's the case, you could include Deoxys and Primal Kyogre when talking about Pokemon of that same area, and Deoxys attack actually has better attack and speed than Mewtwo Y, and you'd probably give it more to it than Mewtwo because in this case, Deoxys is a lot more well-rounded. The thing about the Pokemon mentioned here is that they're really just planet level plus, not universal.
On top of all of that, Mewtwo was raised by Giovanni, who is one of the strongest Pokemon trainers on the planet.
Okay. okay. What? Okay, so you're not talking about video game Mewtwo. You're talking about movie Mewtwo and anime Mewtwo, like the one that we had there, who has never gone Mega, because that's a different Mewtwo also in a different movie, because the Pokemon movie canon is really odd and just everywhere on that. But those are not the two same. Like, you have to look up the lore of Mewtwo in the games. That's not a whole embryo of Mew and all that. That's 2 different areas. And also, even if this one was, and it's like Mewtwo was raised by Giovanni, he didn't do a pretty good job at it, because Red, it looks like, oh yeah, he's kept up with Red, but Red has whooped him the whole time. I don't even know why this is being included, because This Mewtwo right here in Smash, that's not, I don't even know what Mewtwo you're talking about at this moment.
Now on paper, Mewtwo may be as strong as a divine entity and have the psychic powers to take on any other Pokemon, but with Ness on the other hand, he actually took on a universal being who is nicknamed the embodiment of evil.
Alright, we're on Ness. Now wait. Alright, let's just compare, alright? So Mewtwo, which you said, Mewtwo is on a tier with God Pokemon like Dialga and Palkia. Those are universal beings, okay? And Ness is ahead of him because why? What you said is that Mewtwo, this potential universal being, is versus a character who fought a universal being. You also mentioned the abilities of Ness and should take note of that he would only cap off in strength with the strongest monster that he can fight by himself, whatever that is in Mother 2, Earthbound, whatever you call it. Why? Because Gigas, the Universal Destroyer, was defeated by the team of Ness, Paula, Pooh, and Jeff. Along with that, you can't win the fight against Gigas without Paula because her praying carries it. The strength doesn't come from the kids alone, let alone Ness by himself, but instead everyone that they met in the game. It's a humongous thing in Earthbound and extremely difficult to leave out. It's a pretty major part of it, especially with it being an amazing and beautiful part of the game. Not the fight itself, but just everything going up into it and what came out to be. It's a huge thing.
And honestly, Ness would probably be able to wield the Master Sword from Zelda, which is arguably one of the strongest weapons in the universe.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Chief. I have no clue as to why this was mentioned. It's just not his weapon. The last time I checked, the Master Sword, it was the Legend of Zelda, not the Legend of Earthbound, not the Legend of Mother. It's just not it. Now, after Ness, you put Samus, and I already knew how this was gonna go because it's a common thing with Metroid when either Composite Samus is disregarded or Mother Brain is made to be a lot larger than needed. In a universe where there's not that much to tag planet level or star level beings aside from the two driving forces of the game, it's not that much of a surprise to say that the universe would be in danger. It's like, say that our planets were all like Earth, and there was an alien stronger than everyone on each planet, and they are strong enough to take out one planet at a time. That wouldn't mean that they're universe level. That's basing around the capability of destruction of the actual universe itself, which is extremely large and just bigger than any planet at a time, solar system level potentially type thing. It's different.
When Samus is in her various suit with all upgrades, she is able to take a nuke to the face without taking a scratch.
Alright, so look, alright. If she's supposed to be universal to you, I would hope that she could tank at least one. But tanking a nuke, it's not supposed to be a universal type thing. Now, taking a nuke that would take out a planet, that's cool. She has above planet level durability to take something like that, but that's really just it. It's not like she took a nuke to the universe, which I would love to see if they can make a size of that. The ridiculous, that would be huge. Plus, I also did some digging for Samus because I don't really keep up with her feats, but majority of her stuff, from what other people had done, just credits those, they keep her at planet level or at max at star level. I have yet to see anything for this Samus to be based around universal.
So if he took Ness against Samus, Samus would just obliterate Earth and drastically weaken Ness's powers.
Okay, well, one, that's extremely out of her character to just take out a whole planet just because of one person just going ahead and doing that. If the planet has well enough life to it, and the only issue is that one person, it's not like what she's usually going against. I'm pretty sure she would draw the line because that's how Samus works. That's just off of playing 2 or 3 of the Metroid games, so don't hold me to it, but I'm pretty sure she wouldn't just go ahead and just blow up the whole planet for one kid. I also don't think that's a pretty good argument to yourself though, because while you said she could do that, if Ness was universal like you had mentioned, then he should be able to take on Samus and take her right out before she actually has the chance to do anything to Ness, especially since you said that the PK Flash is a move where it just takes out anything. Plus, adding on to that, if Mewtwo is also a universal being, couldn't he just blow up the planet anyways, just like how Samus can? I mean, since we're not being specific on what Mewtwo really, like it really matters about blowing the planet, I'm pretty sure you can do that, or it. What, we could use that, we could use a Pokken Mewtwo, which has a super of blowing up the whole world when he's all shadowed up, or that'd be fine. I mean, well, Mewtwo is already strong enough to do that. I'm not messing around adding Pokken, but I'm pretty sure you know what I'm getting at. Just Mewtwo low, and you're having the same reasoning. It's kind of confusing.
Now this was a really tough decision, putting Sonic over Samus.
Was it really? Like really? Was it really that tough of a decision? Sonic is pretty fast, and speed is power. He's also beaten a reasonably large amount of major threats to his universe, and it actually wasn't a case like Metroid. There was actual detrimental stuff that could happen.
And with this new transformation, Sonic has unlimited speed and uncalculable power.
Yeah, okay, let me tell you this, all right? Unlimited does not matter if there's nothing to base it off of. Unlimited doesn't mean you're continuously going further up and getting stronger. Unlimited means you won't see it stopping anytime soon. Unlimited speed could mean that you never run out of stamina while going as fast as you can, which means that it would be capping around what you're capable of. He could be running forever at, let's say, 100 billion times the speed of light, but his speed being unlimited doesn't imply that he's going any faster than that, and that number is just for an example. Plus, I understand that how this is a common thing that's brought up, even I had this issue before, like way back, but hypersonic is an extremely questionable form because of the canonicity. Here's the thing, in terms of speed, you don't need hypersonic. You didn't even bring up a speed feat, so I'm not really worried about that. But base Sonic has way more speed feats than Super and Hypersonic, and is just way more reliable than the two. Plus, you don't really need that. I also have a video going over Sonic, and while it is old to me, it does its job for the topic at hand.
And if you didn't know, when you run faster than the speed of light, you actually go back in time.
Bro, what? Okay, hold on. I need to know, like, okay, if you're talking about the game, the real world, or whatever you're mentioning, I need to know exactly that. Because there are many examples of light speed in all types of fiction, and you don't see any of those people just going back in time just because they go light speed. It obviously works differently when it comes to different franchises, but for the most part, and even in Sonic, it's just the speed of whatever person or being that it's happening. It's just their speed. They're going at light speed. Doesn't mean light speed is click, temporal, backwards, no.
Ultimately giving Sonic the power of time itself.
Wow. Okay, look. It's easy to say, no, it doesn't. That's the easy way for me to go about it. But, okay, let's just say that it did, okay? Being able to go back in time doesn't mean that you have control of time. You can't stop time just because you go backwards. You can't rewind all of time by itself because you go backwards. There's a lot you can't do just because you can go backwards. And if we're talking about from a logical point of view, paradoxes, theory of relativity, just a bunch of things, there's multiple things. Though, if you're mentioning Sonic CD, where he has a little Superman and Flash moment where he's just like, oh, I run so fast that I'm going back in time because I need to, they do that because it's possible for the universe that they're in, but it's not being used for the characters when it comes to fights. Sonic had an initiative to go back in time because of the enemy of the game, and that's how that worked for that game. If you're trying to do, say, Sonic versus Mario, or something like that for a fight, Sonic isn't just going to go run back in time to destroy Mario when he was a baby, like some Zoom types, the reverse flash type stuff, because, well, one, that's not how the fight works, and two, he most likely wouldn't be able to do that, or he wouldn't be doing that because it's out of his character.
Ironically though, Sonic's only weakness in hyper form is, well, time. Yeah, he can only stay in this form for 10 minutes.
Alright, if you have the ability to move at the speed of light, how is 10 minutes bad? Do you know how fast the speed of light is, and like how they would perceive time? Plus, if you were to do a fight involving hypersonic, which is, I would hope that you would be having someone that can contest the speed, and even then I doubt the hypothetical fight would even take more than 10 minutes.
So if we were talking Dragon Ball Super lingo, Supersonic is Super Saiyan God, and Hypersonic is Super Saiyan God Kaioken times 10.
That's not how that works. That's just not how that works at all. What? Remember, you said that he's invulnerable for these 10 minutes. That's a pretty big thing. And also not how Kaioken works. I don't even get the comparison in this sense, because I would say maybe Ultra Instinct, because like, oh yeah, I'm untouchable, but it's no. In comparison to Dragon Ball, that's just something completely different from whatever we had going on here. And I'm not really sure what you're trying to connect, like, oh, it's the next step, because adding Kaioken isn't like the next step in evolution. That's just completely something different.
Now, Sonic may be invulnerable for a mere 10 minutes while in hyper form, but with Ganondorf on the other hand, he is indefinitely invulnerable thanks to his Triforce of power.
Ganondorf over Sonic the Hedgehog. In both inside and outside of Smash, Sonic beats Ganondorf. You mentioned that he holds the Triforce of power, so it means that it's not a hypothetical to where it's Ganon with the whole Triforce. And I know for a certain that Ganon with just the Triforce of power alone has no chance against Sonic. That's to think that's just crazy. I have no clue on that.
Now, like most of you probably know, the downside of Ganondorf's immortality is the fact that his only weakness is to light weapons.
Only lose to light? Okay, it's no limits, I'm guessing. Just because it's said that you can only defeat Ganondorf with light weapons, it does not mean that he can't get beat. This is a purely in-game thing, and I'm pretty sure you would have to know because you have Ganondorf this low. If you apply this to other universes where you have to have Ganondorf and another character duke it out, that weakness to light does not matter, let alone light weapons. You're telling me that if I was to put up, like, just put any character that I had in mind, let's say I have Vanilla Ice from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Let's say I have Goku from Dragon Ball Z. If I put him up against Ganondorf, you're telling me that Ganondorf would be perfectly fine because Goku just doesn't happen to have any light weapons. He doesn't know Link. He doesn't have any light weapons at all. You're telling me Ganondorf would just live. That's just no.
But even if he's defeated by Link and Zelda, he will just come back a few hundred years later and continue the non-stop cycle of terror.
Yeah, but coming back every 100 years doesn't really matter when it comes to a list on strength and strong characters, because if the characters on the list or anyone else can whoop him every time he comes back, that doesn't really matter now, does it? And it's not like it's some form of Zenkai to where he becomes stronger by each iteration of him. That's not the case. The next character you have here is Palutena, and just a little thing before we get into this, because I know it's a common thing with people. With her being a goddess, it's just assumed that she's just busted. That's a common thing because of gods in certain verses. They have this huge gap between them and regular people. But the thing is that there are many other verses where regular characters are able to contest with the gods of other universes, or they're even like their own universes. And it's just not a thing to be considered so notable where it's just like, oh, every god in every franchise is busted and they can just totally undoubtedly win all the time. That's crazy.
Even in Kid Icarus Uprising, when you battle Palutena as a final boss, she is merely possessed by a Chaos Kin.
Alright, I'm just gonna add a little bit of input here. If she could get controlled by something that shouldn't be nowhere near her strength, then how would she work on characters that are stronger than her or at the same level? Because if she's losing to things that are completely weaker, like just hugely weaker to her, what does that say about her character in general?
But something we do know is that she's immortal with very powerful abilities.
Adding on to the whole immortal thing, there are many levels of immortality, and with how Kid Icarus works, Palutena is mortal from a fighting standpoint when it comes to these character fights and rankings and all that types of stuff. Alright, any of the abilities mentioned here, you know that she can't just do that to anyone. I don't even need to mention that here, because it's not like these powers worked against Hades, who's in the game. Plus that death manipulation thing works well for the little in-game enemies. I'd love to see an attempt on trying to insta-kill or transmutate Hades. That just that wouldn't work.
So yeah, even though there's a lot of mystery behind Palutena's true power, her known powers are incredibly strong.
All right, mystery to her power, at this point it's just a lack of feats. If we don't have anything else to prove on this character, then as far as we know and can scale, she stands where she stands. And I can't just use the whole absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence here, because at that point that would just be ignorant for me.
Now Palutena may be a goddess, but in the divine realm, she probably ranks as a low tier entity. And with Shulk on the other hand, it is a completely different story.
I'm just gonna say this here, but the Shulk we have in the game is not the end game Shulk we have in Xenoblade. And you bring this up later. Don't worry, I'll get to that. 2 different swords, 2 different times, and if we're fighting Shulk that we have in Smash, the one that we were messing around with right now, he gets blitzed by a lot of the characters, just gets completely beaten down by many of the characters because he isn't that strong to begin with. Now God Shulk, he's strong. That's true.
Her damage is being measured in gigatons.
One thing, since you've mentioned gigatons and showed the math for it, quote unquote, get the weight of a fist, right? And just move it at like 100 billion times the speed of light. That's Sonic. You get the force from that's Sonic. Now on Bayonetta, she didn't even beat Jubilee's at 100%, which was something that you need to mention about the fight. And along with that, which you did mention, she got help. That's a huge thing. And I don't want to exactly get into how strong Bayonetta is, but from the very minimal amount that I've seen of her, she's not universal. And just even going off of the feats that other people had provided me, which a lot of the good amount of the characters that you mentioned here on the roster, they are universal, or well, supposedly too at the same time. And you also mentioned that Shulk is a literal god, and he had the ability of creating or recreating a universe. If that's a case, he's way more credible than Bayonetta here.
Now, if you've played the Super Mario Galaxy games, you know that Rosalina is basically a goddess.
I'm sure that you don't really know much about other stuff like this, but spoiler alert to fiction, being a god or goddess doesn't make you this untouchable thing. There are a lot of characters out there in fiction. I've already said this.
And the reason I say that is because after you beat the game, Rosalina not only saves you from an expanding black hole, but she also creates a brand new universe after the previous one is destroyed.
Okay, you had to have had a thought about it and just like, oh, this is actually pretty ridiculous. Having one feat, and that feat being of creation and not more so an attack by any means, you had to have been weary about putting this in. Escaping a black hole and creating a universe put her here, and you said that Shulk could have been here if he stayed as God Shulk the whole time. If that's the case, then what was the point of mentioning God Shulk at all and him being on this list? If he's not going to be here the whole time, then you can't have him at all. You can't just go half and half on this. As this is when Shulk works and this is not when he works in the list. It's either he wins it all and now he works completely how he does, or he's just not on the list. And that actually goes with a lot of the characters that we have here. It's just like, oh, we don't have Ganon with all the Triforce. So like we're mentioning the one in Smash, which was the Twilight Princess Ganon, and specifically Smash 4. And you want to have Palutena, you got to be specific on what her stuff is. Mewtwo, we don't even know which Mewtwo that we got. And Sonic, you're bringing up Hypersonic. That's not even the same Sonic. He goes super in this game. He doesn't go hyper. That's completely different. There's so many iterations and so many different characters and all this type of stuff. And even Samus, just like you haven't even mentioned what suits do what. It's just more so that, oh yeah, Samus in general. It's just that you can't generalize the whole character. That's not how that works. No, but adding on to Rosalina, creating a universe doesn't instantly make you strong, because even that feat itself, it's actually pretty questionable. It doesn't even say that Rosalina definitively have done it. It's possible that it's just like, oh, it's an amalgamation of like the Luma's help and all this type of other stuff. But along with that, Rosalina has never fought, so there's no feats to base her off of. 2, she isn't really even a goddess. She has human parents, and that's up for speculation on who it is, but most likely she's the daughter of an alternate universe Mario, Luigi, Peach, somebody. And that doesn't make her an instant goddess. If that's the case, Mario, Luigi, all of them are gods, and they actually are canonically pretty strong, but it's just not it. If we're talking about characters with feats and raw science to back it up, Rosalina isn't even top 5 strongest characters in the Mario Bros franchise. It's a huge surprise, but she's really not. All right, since we're at number 1, I'm gonna just do this. I hate doing anything to Kirby because I completely love this character to death. But 1, Kirby's like 3 centimeters tall, and I hope you factor that in. Okay, even if not, let's just make him as tall as he is in Smash. Yeah, sure, let's go ahead with that. 2, I'm just gonna have you connect the dots here. All right. Now, obviously, Kirby needs to win because it's his game, but here you say that Magolor has an infinite amount of magic. If Magolor is able to get beat when he has an infinite amount of magic, then what would you say for Kirby? You said that Kirby's power is infinite, so he has still the same amount of chance as Magolor to get beat. Along with that, I already told you how unlimited and infinite, like how that all works. There's a certain cap to what you got. Plus, just the infinite just doesn't mean nothing. If you don't have regular feats to back it up to prove like how strong that would be right there, it doesn't really matter. Say that if Kirby was to have unlimited power, he would still have a cap on how strong he is by himself and his abilities until he's shown that there isn't one and he just continuously rises up. But that's not the case. It's just ridiculous to say that Kirby is just this little unlimited adorable ball, because that's just a no limits fallacy at that point, and that's just not it.
Yeah, Kirby is literally the Omni King of Nintendo.
Kirby Omni King? We haven't even said why he's universal, just supernova and unlimited power. Kirby isn't an Omni King. He's not. It's a common misconception to be like, oh yeah, Kirby's the strongest character we got in Smash. People don't even do the stuff put into it. They just don't. Now, I've been working on my own stuff, obviously, on figuring out how strong Kirby is, and I love the little energy putting behind for the character and how much love is being put in for them. But to state that he's just the definitive strongest character, that's crazy. Also, just completely big side note, he doesn't summon the Star Rod. The gameplay is Nightmare in Dreamland, and I hope that you had played it to know that what you said isn't the case at all. You can't just summon the Star Rod at hand. No, that's not how it works. You have to have played the game. I know you know that's not how it works. And final thoughts, I don't really have any more to say on this. I think I've covered all that I've needed, and I don't want to do any more extra stuff because there's no real need to it. And again, good job on the editing. It's pretty good. Now, I know for sure I'll have people talking about some whole, oh, if you're so smart about this, why don't you do a video about it and talk about how strong they are. Thing is, I will, and I've done that. I'm revamping for this channel where I want to have all this type of stuff to where I do, if you do hold interest in like, oh, how strong is and all that type of stuff, I've done that on my main channel for a while, moving that over here for video game things, so I'll be talking about that here. But for my subs, don't be expecting too much stuff like this, or even on the main channel. I don't debunk people. That's not really my forte. I kind of just like let stuff go for the most part, but something about this, I just couldn't. I'll be getting back to normal after this video, most likely, so thank you guys all for watching. If you have any extra points on what characters or whatever you really want to talk about, leave it all in the comments. You can hit me up on my social media and Twitter and all that. It's in the description. And Dobbs, if you do want to talk about stuff like this, I'm probably available. I know your friends, you know my friends, most likely Pokemon community and all that type of stuff. I don't know. Maybe I'll see you all in the next one. Maybe not. Until then, peace out and Godspeed.